Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism, narcissistic relationships, and healing from narcissistic relationships. So let's talk a little bit about love bombing because you can't talk about it enough. And let's talk about why love bombing gets really confusing depending on those damned love languages. Somebody sent me in a question about this specific issue, and their question was, could love bombing be misinterpreted as acts of service? Thought it was a really interesting question. They sent it in a while ago, and I pondered it for a while. So in case there are some of you out there who don't know about the love languages, I never want to assume everybody knows these sort of little things. I know this one's a pretty universal one, but just in case, they're sort of meant to be this sort of framework for what it is that we as individuals need in a relationship and how we also, the form in which we give love to others in a relationship. Where it gets complicated is when we get into a relationship with someone whose love language is very different from ours. Now, again, if you don't know, the different love languages are physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, gift giving, and acts of service. So this person's really specifically focused on the acts of service one, right? Now, acts of service means showing or wanting to receive love through these alleged acts of service, which could be someone doing the dishes, or building a bookshelf, or doing the taxes, or folding the laundry, or driving you to the airport. Those gestures either are the way of showing love or wanting to receive love. And if that is your love language, when someone does those acts of service for you, according to this model, it could be quite spellbinding. And I've talked about this before. I've taken this love language test. There wasn't even a close second for me. I'm acts of service all day. Put out my trash cans and I will think I was hit by Cupid's arrow. And my idea of giving a holiday gift for someone is like getting their car washed or their closet organized. And if somebody wanted to do those things for me, best present ever. I thought the question was an interesting one because love bombing is obviously going to be more powerful if it intersects with your alleged love language. If, for example, your love language was quality time, a love bomber who spends lots of time with you, talking with you, hanging out with you, that's going to be more bomby. That's going to be more seductive. If you're a physical touch person, touchy, huggy, sensual, sexual love bombing, that may really hook you. But let's go back to those acts of service, what this person's asking about. Could it be that during the love bombing phase, that the love bomber was doing stuff for you? And instead of that, you seeing that as love bombing, that you may have experienced it as acts of service. Maybe they did things, like I said, pick you up from the airport or help you fix things in your house or go with you to the store to run a complicated errand or watch your dog when you're out of town. The tricky bit about love bombing is that it is sometimes hard to discern from just someone who is really into you. So, and if your groove is acts of service and early in the relationship, this person is doing stuff for you, lots of stuff that could be experienced as merely acts of service, it's understandable why you would think you've hit the relationship lottery. Now, what you got to remember is love bombing is not just as simple as the behaviors that happen in these relationships. Love bombing is part of sort of an overall attitude and process. It can, now, in general, love bombing sort of feels like a lot, like it's intense. But this question was a very good one, because if a love bomber does stuff that feels very helpful, honestly, it would be all but impossible to tell where the acts of service end and where the love bombing begins. You would have to literally keep an eagle eye out for other patterns. Are they controlling in how they approach the acts of service? Are they telling you that you're doing things wrong? That they telling you that they know how to do these things better than you? Or they're very, very insistent. And you may say like, hey, I can do this myself. And then they may seem to imply that they have to be the one to do it. And you may think, damn, I have always wanted someone to come along and be an acts of service person. And here is this person doing all of this stuff for me. So maybe I shouldn't get caught up in how intense they're being. You may justify or sort of push away some of that intense stuff because they're doing the thing you really appreciate, which is those acts of service. The beginning of a relationship is hard enough without also having to become a love bomb detector. And if you have the unique bad luck of the narcissistic love bomber just happening to love bomb exactly the way your love language works, and even if you don't believe in the love bomb, if you don't believe in love languages, I get that. Just simply to do what you value in a relationship, I hate to say it, but it's a pretty good bet that you're probably not going to pick up on it as being a love bomb. In fact, if the person's approach is not in sync with your love language, so for example, if they're more of a gift giver and you're more of an acts of service person, then their love bombing may seem interesting and compelling, but not bewitching in the way that a love bombing experience that lines up with what matters to you can feel like. Listen, I have heard tales of people being love bombed by someone who showed up and helped them get like 10 years of projects done and stuff done in a matter of months, or was willing to do the driving and the pickups and the helpful behaviors to them that meant to the world to them. And then that signified love. So they got really stuck. I have to say, this is one of those videos where I don't have any great answers, but maybe some awareness. If anything, it's meant to be one that asks you to show more grace to yourself when you say, oh, how did I fall for the love bombing? Love means different things to us beyond the emotional connection, empathy, and compassion. It can also be folded laundry or an airport pickup at rush hour. It can mean that the love bombing that hit your love language was an explosion that you were not going to be able to easily avoid and step back from. And it was a moment, it can feel like a moment of being seen that can sweep you away like no other. It's tricky. These relationships are easy to get into. I guess you got a 1 in 5 chance that they're going to hit you on that one love languagey thing that matters to you. And that can take that love bombing and make it profound. But it's very easy to see how the doing that happens early in a relationship could be interpreted as acts of service and be missed as the love bombing experience that it really is. Hope that was helpful, and thanks again.